So today we're going to talk about vacuum leaks on these things. Took this thing out on the weekend. Car was running good. Figure I'd just check my short-term, long-term trims after doing all the exhaust work and everything on it in the fall. And noticed the long-term trims were sitting around 10, 10.2, which from what I read on a stock LS1, anything up to 10 is borderline normal. After that, you start obviously getting into, there's an issue. I believe the engine light will come on if it's lean or rich by the time it gets like 25%. And how they work, essentially 0 on your fuel trim is no alterations from what the computer's base map is set for. As you get a positive number, that's lean. So the car's adding that much percent of fuel to the base map to make it 14.7, to make it a good air fuel ratio. Below that, it's rich, so it's pulling fuel out of the base map. So ideally, you want it between -5 and 5. Somewhere in there is considered good. It was at 10. The car ran fine, but I was like, okay, that seems a little high considering it's all new exhaust, all new gaskets. I had the intake gaskets done on this thing in 2020 when I did the valley cover. So first thing I did was check PCV hoses. Now I've already changed this entire PCV system. I did that back in 2020 because they're very known to leak at the back. There's like a Y joint. I'll put a picture up here. But they just degrade and that becomes a vacuum leak. The only 2 hoses I did not change on this particular car when I did all that was this guy here and this little joiner where the PCV connects to the intake manifold. So I had some spare hoses. The other ones the original ones here, they were still decent, but you know when you put it on, it just kind of slop on and off. That one feels very tight, so I figure I'll change both of those. And then I came along to check the intake manifold because I was like, well, I did it, and I retorqued it after a few heat cycles. I can't see that being an issue. So the front 2 here were fine. Every other bolt literally took like 3 turns. They made that like cracking free sound when I went to tighten them. And keep in mind, these are only like 7 foot-pounds. And they spun like 3 times around to get to that 7 foot-pounds. So I loosened them all off in reverse order, just enough to get the bolt free, not to unseat the intake or anything. And then I retorqued them in the 2-step sequence back down. Took this thing back out on the road Monday, a couple nights ago anyway, and did a 30-minute just kind of drive watching the trims, and they are literally 0, like +1, 1 banks 0, 1 banks +1. They're bang on. So this thing is perfectly tight, way better than I expected with 237,000 kilometers to be that tight of a fuel trim on this thing. So it's good. I'm going to kind of show you how to torque these things, and it's something I would probably suggest checking, especially if you haven't really ever taken it apart. These things are, at best 24 years old or older now. If you've never done the intake gaskets, I would probably suggest doing it because they're probably pretty hard and pretty flat. I know these ones were new not long ago, so they're probably still pretty pliable, and a retorque seemed to do the trick for this. But let's torque them up now, and I'll also show you that PCV, the updated one, is a plastic piece of the back, which is quite nice. So let's hop in there, and I'll show you how to torque these things. So before I torque the intake here, I've got the camera kind of going back there to show you the PCV. Right at the back of the intake, on the original one, it's just rubber. It's like a 1-into-2 just rubber joiner. That gets saturated with oil and just falls apart, and then, like I said, creates a unmetered air issue going on, and oil leak and stuff can happen too. The new one is all plastic, so or like plastic's probably the best way to say it. So it all joins together with that. Much more durable connection. I mean, it's way back there, but you can kind of see the hard line back there. And I mean, I used the camera to make sure all the connections back there were good, no vacuum leaks, but like I said, that's already all up to date. So if you're doing the intake manifold gaskets, definitely do PCV or a catch can or the LS6 style. Just update it, make sure it's sealed up. And be careful of that oil pressure switch back there because the brake booster line likes to snap them. I've had this off 2 LS1 cars. Snapped both them. I had a new one to put on because I figured that would be the case. And they're kind of notorious, so when you're back there, not a bad thing to change. But yeah, the updated one, nice and dry, and definitely worth it. But all right, let's get the torque sequence out and double check this after a heat cycle. So there is a sequence to do these in. First pass, I believe, is 44 inch-pounds. Definitely don't mistake that with foot-pounds. You'll have not such a good day. Second pass is 89, probably hard to see here, but 89 inch-pounds. So I've already obviously done this in sequence, driven it, heat cycled it. Just gonna verify nothing's settled off here, and then I'll probably check it again kind of mid-season. And I will post a picture up of the sequence for you guys, but essentially your first one is the middle one on the right bank, which is good. Then you go across, and it's just kind of in the fuel pulser thing here on the intake. It's in like a little gully. That one's good. Number 3 is in behind that one, which is back here, and there's kind of 2 together at the back here, closer on the driver's side. That one's good. And number 4 is up here. That one took a tiny bit. 5 is back on this side. Right here, actually, sorry. 5. And then we got 6 up at the front. And then 7 is over here. Now this one, because I have that strut power brace, it does need a small extension. I don't even know if these strut power braces do much, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt to get an oil funnel in there and to get this bolt, but a little swivel extension does the trick. Good. Every other one can be done just with a slightly taller socket. Number 8's all the way at the back on this side, which is a pain to get to. 9, and then 10's all the way at the back. Make sure you have a good ratchet or good torque wrench that holds onto the socket, because if you lose it back there, it'll be gone. Other important thing, aside from just a vacuum leak, if this thing's loose, obviously air can suck in, so can water. These cars are notorious for where the clips under here, water can drain through. If water drips on the intake and the car's sitting out in the rain, there are a ton of guys that have had the starter flange break off or hydro lock this thing because it fills with water sitting out in the rain. You can try to seal the cowl up a little bit. Bigger thing, just make sure this is tight. I would probably check it at the end of every season. Composite intake, aluminum heads, stuff settles. I mean, I think the way the gaskets compress, this is still tight, but the heat cycles, the gaskets actually flattened, and that's what's alleviated that torque. But super easy to do, takes 2 minutes. Like I said, if you're loosening it or replacing it, you do the first pass at 44, I believe it is, inch-pounds, and then again at the 89, which is like 7-point-something foot-pounds. But looks like 2 of those took a little snug, and that was after just 1 heat cycle, so I think it's pretty well seated. Again, I'll drive it probably, till June, July, something like that, and then give it just a repass to make sure nothing's loosened up on it. But easy enough, definitely something you should be doing on any composite intake, LS1, LS3, whatever it is. Not a bad idea to check it out. So that's pretty much that. Definitely like I said, something to look at. If you haven't checked your fuel trims, any of these new cheap scanners, it's not a bad idea to check it out. I obviously have the Tech 2, as I showed in the last video there. Super awesome with that because it will actually show what fuel cell it's using for the data. Because short-term trims are instant, so you can kind of look at that, get a good idea of where your instantaneous readings are once it's in closed loop. Good trick to see if it's a vacuum leak is if the car is at idle and you have pretty high positive trims, but if you rev it up 2,000, 2,500 or drive it under load and it drops, it's a vacuum leak issue, because essentially the vacuum leak's more of an issue at low airflow, so idle, but as soon as you get a rush of air coming through the motor, it diminishes the effect of that. If it's worse under load and better at idle, then you probably got a fuel supply problem. Fuel pump, as you know, 90s GM product, fuel pump could be going bad or something like that. So definitely can read the data and get a good idea of what you're looking at. But yeah, the Tech 2 will show average long-term trims. It will show long-term trims will flip around to show what it's learned in each cell. So cruising will be one value, decel, whether evap's active or not, idling. It's using all those different data points. So it will show you kind of an average. And like I said, half-hour drive of this, it's both banks are nice and equal. The other thing that tipped me off, there was 10 on bank 1 and bank 2. So it wasn't like a bank specific issue. It was a kind of a global thing, which intake kind of fits the bill with that. So definitely reading the data. But I mean, if you feel the car's kind of stumbly at idle or just not getting the same fuel mileage, throw a scanner on it and just check the trims out. But you know, for what it's worth, once you do this too, if you don't have a scanner to reset the fuel trims, so everything kind of goes back to square one, it can relearn. Just unplug the computer or the battery for a couple minutes, hook it back up, it'll kind of reset all those values. But even something like an SLP lid, from what I read online, can bump the trims into the positive side because it's getting that much more airflow into the motor, and it can throw the values up and down, which is why they always say to tune things once you do any modifications, because the computer can only do so much adjustment before it thinks something's actually off, and then you'll get a PO 171 or 174 lean or rich codes and that kind of thing, right? But this one is tight as a drum now, so it is good, and looking forward to getting some miles on it this year, which has been a long winter up here in Ontario, Canada. So weather's coming around and car is pretty well good to go. I don't think I have much else to really putter or tinker with on this thing. It is running really well. I was quite surprised after all the exhaust work, and refreshing to drive it and have everything kind of line up and be where it should be at. Only thing is just a quick intake retorque. I can't really complain. So until the next video, you guys take care, and hopefully you're getting your cars out or never had to put them away if you're in one of those nice warm states. Take care. So I figure I'll show a couple of quick clips of what the data looks like. This is at hot idle after, like I said, about a 30-minute drive. Short-term trims are the top two. Third and fourth one at the top there are long-term learn trims for that fuel cell, 19, which is idle. So you kind of see them dancing right around 0. You always add short and long together, so that's going to be between 3 and 1, depending on the bank, and both banks are super tight together, which is nice. I mean, that's where you're going to see a vacuum leak, and this thing's sitting at 0 for short term, sitting up there, so it's good. This clip here is driving. This is probably 15-20 minutes into the drive, and see we're in cell 4 now, which is going to be cruising with no evap control. So this is what the computer's seeing, and they're going to jump around and dance. Positive, negative, short term is always going to flip-flop between the two. You just don't want big swings either way. I believe I do let off here, and you'll see it go to cell 0, and those trims completely change as well. So you'll see the long-term trims jump up, and that's just because it's a different value it's learned for that particular condition. But your scanner may look different, but this one's probably the most in-depth one. It will show an average of long-term and short-term trims, which is kind of nice when you're looking over a variety of cells.
But yeah, I mean, just throw a cheap scanner on it, watch your short-term trims, you kind of see long-term for an idea of what it's learned. And I mean, seeing and knowing this stuff can definitely help diagnose issues or things you might not even realize.